Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, we are going to be giving you a status update here on SS1-1, right? The first merged kingdom in Call of the Dragons, which was merged from Kingdoms 1 through 4, right, during the beta, which we're still in. And we're going to be going through and just kind of going over a lay of the land, right? A little state of affairs. How are things going? Because we are getting closer, which is why it's also important for us to pay attention to how SS1-1 is going to play out coming into their next season, and what are some expectations around that. So before we get started, we're going to talk about all that. As always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. If you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. So let's first start off by kind of giving you a lay of the land. What has happened since we last were coming in? If you may recall that for BDN, for BD1, and NT45 were getting pushed out of Zone 3 by TA, GRZ, OFUX, and then POS, right? So those four alliances were essentially kind of working out those, and now that's pretty much who remains, right? So you can see this, that OFUX is not actually in Zone 3 at the moment, but you have here POS, TA, and then GRZ on the north side, right? And now you can see, 4BD1 is right here. They have, again, outside of a few other flags, I think this is their alliance for, that they placed and built on. You can see some of the territory, right, that has been removed. And let me see if this is, so this is them too as well, right? So we kind of build all the way to the AF. And then, APK is still there. I think 4BDN should be here in orange. They are. And again, right, they're kind of halfway in Zone 2. It doesn't seem that they're getting pushed at the moment, but, this is NT45, on the southern part here, right, where it's OFUX, so they're not necessarily pushing them hard on the north. It doesn't really even look like they're, kind of going hard to that extent on wanting to push not only them, but other alliances out of Zone 2 and into Zone 1. But you could see here Lorcan, right, on this Zone 2, pretty much crushed, right? This was for BD1 territory. That's not there anymore. So I don't know what happened if someone just removed flags and all those got disconnected. I mean, they could build out if there was an opportunity there to then reconnect, but maybe just the opposition or the other union isn't going to let them. So that's something to consider as well. Outside of that, really nothing else for the most part, at least from what I can tell. I mean, I think some places are getting cleaned up. Oh, hang on, let's see what this is. So yes, you see this was APK territory. Maybe this was all APK. Unit, yeah. So again, quite a bit there from flags, or we should say from remove flags. And now, right, you're kind of just in this situation of, what's going to happen next, right? So here was some 4BD1 territory they had. Forgotten Lands. That was Kang's territory. I think there's still some more up here too as well. This was 4BD1 up here. Looks like there as well. Yeah, so, I mean, again, right, some of the zonal regions I think are okay when it comes to activity, and then some of the other ones are looking a little bit light. Now, when we take a look at where are we exactly for the amount of time that we have right until the next season comes up, because Dragon has already been captured here in SS1-1 by TA. You can see here that it's already been completed. Alliance rankings, TA has capped. If we go to season, or status, I should say, or sorry, not status, it is season. So let's go to season, and we'll do season rewards. You can see here that occupation details are still showing 0-0. I mean, again, it probably doesn't show that for if you're in TA. It probably shows this, but we still don't see a season summary. You might not see that before. You'll probably see that after we see new season begins, logically, just because we're going to hopefully see that before the summary ends. But it just depends on when they post those. But you can still see at this time, it says both. There's nothing updated here, right? It's pretty much just the same thing it did last time, right? Where it's, you fight before the season summary, you must wait for other servers to finish their fight before the season summary can begin. In this case, there's no other merged kingdoms, right? 5 through 8 will make up SS1-2 eventually. When they get, right, when Kingdom 8 finishes their Titan's Legacy, then we'll see how long the interval or the in-between period is. But when you look at this kingdom, right, this first merged kingdom, the text here for season overview pretty much reads the same, right? In season 2, you'll forge new alliances, lords neighboring stand against the challenges to come, right? So, again, but we have to go off of what we usually do, which is our Titan's Legacy. That's if we go top left, right, we click our scroll here for quests, second from the top, and this is Titan's Legacy. You can see seasonal, they have a little less than 9.5 days left. So from today, we're on January 30th. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're looking somewhere around Wednesday, February 8th is when we're most likely going to get the first indication around that day on, is it just going to go right into the next season when that ends? Most likely, I'm anticipating there will be a little bit of a buffer or window time. Maybe that could be a couple days or a week. And then we'll see what's going to happen. Now, my guess, based on the fact that there is no other merged kingdom, is that SS1-1 is going to basically roll over into another interim season that they'll play out. And then they'll maybe try and sync the season starts up for the other merged kingdoms. That could be something that they do where after that it'll happen, right? And then the other merged ones, right? So they'll have to kind of like, they'll play theirs out. SS1-2 will play theirs out, and then they'll basically try and sync it up at the end. Or what they could do is they could delay the SS1-1 season start to line up with, meaning that they'll just extend Titan's Legacy, or Titan's Legacy will finish, and then they'll just basically just extend the interval time, right? Until Kingdoms 5 through 8 end up finishing theirs, and then they'll line them up that way. Right, those are kind of my two probable guesses on what we can see happen, and most likely there's going to be some type of continuation here within SS1-1 if they don't go into just letting them run another season. Maybe they'll let them run another season, but it'll be a condensed season, right? So that way it lines up with SS1-2. You know, maybe that'll be how they'll play it out. No matter what, again, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, we've heard about migration, getting some soft confirmations. That's going to be added, so that could add some more value to SS1-1 and see how that plays out. Of course, I don't necessarily foresee migration probably getting added in until we get somewhere around global release, if not after. Just because if it's not something that they had planned or if they were building before, right, then it may take some time. So now let's kind of talk big picture SS1-1. So big picture is between the current alliances here. It will be interesting to see how that plays out, right, where you kind of have this 4v3, 4v2 type situation that's happening. If we look at rankings here, you can see Midas and Ghost are kind of going back and forth here on power, which is kind of cool. Junie seems to be recovering a little bit from some troop loss. Muzaffar is actually catching up right now. Ripper, I know when I had spoke to Ripper, it was kind of just, hey, I'm just doing my dailies. I'm just kind of waiting to see how things play out. Boogie's actually powering up a little bit from when I last saw, and they're getting a few more players here. They're kind of within that top 10 that seem to be. When we look at alliance power, you can see TA, right, getting close to pushing that 4 billion threshold, which is just sick. And then you have Forbidden, right? So it's TA, POS, GRZ, and OFUX. On the other side, it's Forbidden, NT45, right? And then you have 4BD1, but I mean, they're somewhere down here. I think that they pretty much have either merged or have just further consolidated, because I don't think I see them here anymore in the top 6. Yeah. So, but again, at this point in time, right, I don't think that it's really any unions against anyone else, right? Because at this point, they're still figuring out the direction that they're going to go in from here. They're probably just waiting until the next season, and maybe some things change, right? Maybe it'll be something where, you know, they'll look at condensing maybe players and alliances into a top 6, into a top 7, top 8. And they'll just say, look, we're just going to split these up. And if we do get another season reset, then we'll just fight it out on equal terms. To me, that would be the best. The challenge still, though, is that you have to look at personal power being condensed, right? you have Midas, who's still strong, hanging out in Forbidden, but then you got 2, 3, and 4 who are all in Avengers, right, or are all in TA. Ripper and Boogie are in POS, so, and a difference there, but then it's, TA, right, TA, and it's just, again, right, you can see that a lot of the players are condensed within TA when it comes to the top. I mean, Forbidden's right there, and obviously some for POS, but you got 3 out of the top 4, and then the next drop is going, 48, 43. So, that's something to consider, is that, and you can't necessarily control that. Obviously, it depends on how the kingdom is being set up and how unified and organized they are, where, maybe you're in a kingdom, not necessarily I would say this one, because this kingdom is just different the way that it's already, the way that it currently is. So the likelihood of you being able to go into SS1-1 and say, hey, look, why don't we split up the top players and evenly distribute them between, the top 6 or top 8 alliances, and then, we'll split it down the middle and fight it out in this kind of 3v3 or 4v4 fair capacity. I just don't think you're going to be able to sell them on that. Just because usually when you're building, if you're attempting to go for some type of kingdom unification, you have to kind of set those precedents early, meaning you have to set those expectations early. When the kingdom is starting out, if you're running groups, if you're coming together as alliances and trying to kind of figure out how you guys want to do things, and then again, that's only if other alliances want to, right? Otherwise, you're still going to have a kind of small margin of error of imbalance, because players are naturally going to gravitate towards ladder climbing, where they're going to want to climb the ladder and basically go from one alliance to the next strongest, to the next strongest, to the next strongest, and it's just kind of this by default almost hierarchy funneling that you get, where some players will just always want to keep climbing to the point of where they want to be in the number 1 alliance. And when those things happen, right, even if you were to split and fight kind of, fair on fair or 1-to-1 ratios for your alliance versus alliance situations, you're still going to have a little bit of player imbalance, right? Unless you're really trying to do a good job of splitting things down the middle. But that's hard to do, because that takes a lot of coordination. It takes you selling an idea, you selling a hope to the player base and to the kingdom. But I will say this, for kingdoms that are able to get to that point, where if you are ideally able to get to where you can split player power, right, especially at least for the top ralliers, right, we can argue, and then you're splitting alliances up evenly on one team or another, I will tell you that you will have so much more long-term benefits from that. More longevity, you'll have higher morale, you'll have higher player engagement. And the number one reason why, and I'll probably talk about this in another video, so I'll just sprinkle you with some fairy dust magic goodness, is that because you will present to the general populace a fair competitive landscape that will not deter players away from wanting to engage. Right, the way that boards look visually is very, I want to say non-escaping, but it's very kind of in the now for the average player, who when they go through and they look at leaderboards and they say to themselves, well, this alliance is so much stronger, or they have 1 or 2 more alliances on their team than we do, or they have all these extra players, and those are things that can creep into players' minds and almost kind of demotivate them, right, psychologically, demoralize players. And when you present visually and publicly a more kind of fair competition front, that's how you're going to get longer and better PvP engagements out of your kingdom, out of the players, and out of the alliances. And at the end of the day, that's really where the most fun comes in, right? For some people, right, it might be fun and cool to kind of curb stomp people, or just basically, maximize a power advantage or a numbers advantage, or some type of mega alliance advantage. And that's cool in the short term. In the short term, it's always fun. But in the long term is where you really start paying those repercussions. And more often than not, that's just not how the average player, unfortunately, looks at it. But this is very important because it factors directly into your day-to-day experience and whether you're going to enjoy where you're playing or not. Are you going to enjoy it for a small spurt, and then it's going to get boring, after that small spurt is done, which often happens. And so again, right, I don't want to dive too far down the rabbit hole, but just something to consider for SS1-1 is, hey, look, right, season's done, it's cool. How are we going to do next season? And to me, that's where the opportunity lies, is Again, we got so much fantastic PvP from SS1-1, right? Early on, early mid, but then it just started kind of dissipating. So I'd love for them to eventually get back to a point there. Again, right, this is just kind of my go on what the kind of visual lay of the land looks like based on how things have played out. But for those that are in SS1-1 and you guys are more familiar with the inner workings or current conversations, right, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think as well, right? If you agree or disagree with my thoughts on, how creating longevity and long-term success in a kingdom, right? Regardless if players or alliances like or don't like each other, at the end of the day, we all love PvP and we want to do as much of it as we can. And doing more PvP also ensures more merits. So, more ways to get more resources in the long run, especially if you're enticing and giving people a reason to actually show up. There's a lot of benefits. Alrighty, that is going to be it for me as always. Until next time, I will catch you later.